Rev up your engines! There's a gigantic history of companies merging with other companies, companies taking over other companies. I'm going to tell you about the 5 that ended up with the worst situation possible when they did get together and either merge or one company buying out the other. Now, the first one I'm going to talk about is Volkswagen taking over Porsche and Audi. They started on their own after World War II. Actually, they offered them to the Americans, said, you want this company? And they said, we don't want this, you can have your own company. So Volkswagen started with the lowly Beetle and made a lot of money making reliable, inexpensive, easy to repair, long-lasting little cars. Well, decades later, it wasn't a marriage made in heaven. It actually went the wrong way, at least for the consumers. Taking over Porsche and Audi, known for over-complex, highly engineered, extremely hard and expensive to repair cars that often broke down before their time. And if you ask me, I've been working on cars for 52 years, so I got a little experience in this. What happens is this. Volkswagen then took a lot of this high technology from Porsche and Audi, put it in their Volkswagens, which now became more expensive, much less reliable, and super higher expensive vehicles to fix, while Porsche and Audi took on the cheaper part of Volkswagen. They became cheaper made, had more problems, got into like Porsche, primo sports car to drive around. Well, let's start making some cheaper ones, little bitty Porsches with the motor in the middle, and that was the Porsche Boxster. It combined the worst of Porsche and Volkswagen together. Now, it was the lowest price Porsche. Still, they weren't giving them away. Now, they weren't like the Beatles. They weren't really low price. But quality wasn't there. Power and the handling wasn't there either. They were using the name Porsche to make a cheaper sports car. As I said, with Volkswagen, put all this high-tech Porsche technology into the Volkswagens, they now become hellacious cars to repair, super expensive, and if you find anyone who buys a Volkswagen in the last 10 years that says, oh, they were so happy with the car, hey, have them contact me. I'd love to meet somebody who's living in a fantasy world, because every single customer that I've had in the last 15 years who bought a Volkswagen said they'd never buy another one. Fiat-Chrysler, there's a real shocker for you. The merger of Fiat, an Italian company known for low quality, heavy breakdown, cars that just didn't last long, with Chrysler, a company that had pretty much the same reputation, and yes, things did get worse for both sides here. It's so bad that today, Fiat's even talking about pulling their Fiat brand out of the United States entirely because nobody will buy the stupid things. And Chrysler quality, hey, of course, Fiat, they were planning on selling their Fiats at the Chrysler dealers. Well, that's failed, but they still insidiously, a lot of the Chryslers now have Fiat engines, transmissions, notorious for not having any quality. And I have to say the same thing as I did with Volkswagen. In the last 20 years, none of my customers that bought a Chrysler product ever bought a second one. They said, that was one of the worst cars I ever had. I'll never buy another one of those Chrysler products. And of course, they did all kinds of sneaky things like that Jeep Renegade. They call this rebadged Fiat 500 four-wheel drive vehicle a Jeep Renegade, using the name of Jeep when it has absolutely nothing to do with Jeeps in their history at all. Just the Fiat rebadged as a Jeep. It was bad enough that Chrysler always had recall problems with the things not breaking. Well, so does Fiat. So you just piled mistake on top of mistake with that one. Now, another merger when GM took over Saab. Well, we all know how that ended up. Saab now doesn't even exist as a company, so they're completely out of the picture. Well, that probably hastened the end of Saab as far as I'm concerned. GM bought Saab in 2000. They had all kinds of deals going, but the deal was finalized with 125 million bucks. So that's not all that much money. Telling you that Saab really wasn't worth all that much. Now, Saab always pulled the game that Saab, we're the company that makes Swedish fighter planes. Well, it's a related company, but I mean, the guys building the cars weren't the same people that were building the planes. And at any rate, the Saabs were known as extremely over-engineered cars, where a lot of them had the engines in backwards. The front of the engine was by the firewall and the back was by the radiator, and then you had to pull the engine out to do all kinds of jobs. They were horrendous cars for working on. And in 2000, GM, certainly not known for quality. Later, they themselves went bankrupt. What were they thinking? I guess GM was thinking, Saab is a luxury European brand. Let's add it to our stable of cars. So in that respect, I guess they were trying to be like Ford, did stuff with Jaguar. And how did that work out, you know? Half owned by the Indians and half owned by the Chinese. And Jaguar's so bad, a few months ago, even the Chinese were protesting the low quality of the Jaguars they bought at the headquarters in China, where 50% of it's owned. Even the Chinese were revolting against, hey, these cars are terrible, they're falling apart. So the GM acquisition of Saab, hey, as far as I'm concerned, that led to the demise of Saab even faster. In the end, Saab were making unreliable, high-tech garbage. Now, way back in the day, Saab and Volvo always competed, hey, which is the better Swedish car manufacturer. That were kind of an oddball car, here in the United States at least, but they could last a long time. They were solid built, but hey, when GM got them, whoo, the handwriting was on the wall. That didn't lead to anything good, really, other than getting rid of a car manufacturer that made expensive, high-tech cars that broke down all the time. Now, the next merger, Renault and Nissan. That was one of the worst, as far as I'm concerned, for mass production of cars, because together they do make a lot of cars. Now, I can't speak of the French cars, Renault, because they don't sell them here in the United States. They pulled out decades ago. But as for Nissan, when Renault took over in 2000, quality of Nissan started going downhill. I had customers back in the 90s and 80s, had Nissans, they'd run forever, they were great cars. They started getting cheaper and cheaper. Used to be that, hey, a Nissan Altima, you could get 300,000-400,000 miles out of it. But since Renault took over, especially from mid to late 2000s, quality of Nissans has taken a sharp dive down the toilet. Which is a shame, because Nissan, originally Datsun, used to make some really good cars. They could make little puddle jumpers that got phenomenal gas mileage, to really nice sports cars that were fast, handled well, and still had a tendency of lasting quite some time if you didn't beat them too much. As I tell people today, value your money, don't buy a modern day Nissan. Quality's not there like it used to be. I see mufflers fall off when they're 3 years old. My 94 Celica still has the original muffler on it, and it doesn't make any noise. One of the perhaps strangest, bad yes but strange, was the merger of Chrysler and Lamborghini. A lot of people don't even know this. Back in 1987, Chrysler bought Lamborghini. Yeah, the crazy, high-tech, exotic Italian sports car company. A lot of people said it was just a PR move. But they did actually buy the company. And just like Chrysler, at one point in time, made Chrysler Maserati car. It was called the Chrysler TC by Maserati. The worst car ever made. I had a few customers with them. They were rolling piles of junk. They were ugly as could be. They were Chrysler K car base, but they had Maserati parts on them. And the funniest thing, so I jack the car up and I look under it and I see there's a muffler going to the engine, and then there is a fake one that doesn't go anywhere. Just to show it had dual exhaust, just as an ornament. Of course, in the winter you could tell, because smoke would come out on one side and the other side wouldn't do anything because it wasn't connected to anything. To be fair, Chrysler, they've always had problems, and exotic Italian sports cars like Lamborghini, they only make a handful of cars for extremely wealthy people. Buying a company like that, at least when Ford had Jaguar, they had a company that had been around a really long time. They made quite a few cars, and they thought they could buy a luxury brand instead of designing it themselves. Of course, that fell through too. But the Chrysler Lamborghini marriage, that didn't last very long. A little over 6 years. Then Lamborghini was sold to an investment group, and then they were sold to Volkswagen a year later. I mean, Lamborghini's like a hot potato, you know? Who wants to get caught with a hot potato in a hand and keep passing it to somebody else? Who knows what the future will bring, especially with the talks that Fiat-Chrysler is going to merge with the French company Peugeot. You get Fiat-Chrysler, and a French company all getting together. That would truly be the Three Stooges making cars. I would pity anybody who'd buy one of those cars, but it would certainly give me some talking points and things to warn people about, because I'm always trying to help people out to make a logical decision when they buy a car. And that would be the most illogical thing, to get involved with those three companies if it happens. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.